Welcome. This is Steve Lookner with Right Side Broadcasting, coming to you tonight with a news alert. Today, the House of Representatives announced that they are going to open an investigation into the Uranium One deal with Russia that happened with a company that is a company which basically represents Russia. And this happened in 2010. And this deal with this, what happened is this company Uranium One, which controlled 20% of the United States uranium producing capacity, was sold to a company that was basically controlled by the Russian government. So we are going to talk about that tonight, talk about that investigation. And one of the things we're going to do is just try to get clear on the facts of the story. It's kind of confusing, this whole thing. There's lots of details to it. And when you try to research the details, you can get even more confused because as I was tweeting out, those of you who follow me on Twitter saw this, I was tweeting out about an hour ago or half hour ago, even like fact-checking sites get details wrong about this story. So a big thing I'd love to be able to do is just summarize what the facts of the story are, just so we can get clear on that and then move forward. So I wish I could just give you the 3-minute simple explanation which makes everything clear. I'm not going to be able to do that because of the nature of the topic, but I'll try to my best to clarify things and just lay out on the table what's going on. Also, I'll be happy to take your comments on this. So you can write me throughout the broadcast at Lookner on Twitter, at LOOKNER. By the way, it looks like some of you got notifications. I personally didn't get a notification for this, so it seems like we're still having some issues with notifications. So I apologize if you didn't. You probably did if you're here, but you can also, in addition to following us on YouTube and clicking the notifications bell, which should get you notifications if you sign up for notifications, you can follow us on Facebook at Right Side Broadcasting and on Twitter at RSB Network as backups to that to know when we're coming on the air. And thank you to all the moderators tonight, both in the chat rooms, in the chat room on YouTube and the chat room on the website, for being with us and for moderating the chat rooms. Okay, so I want to try to kind of like summarize in a not too brief but not too insanely detailed way what's going on with this story. And let me just make sure you can hear me. And good, you can hear me. So the news that came out today, to briefly say this, first of all, what came out today is that the House Republicans are investigating this deal. Now, strictly speaking, this isn't just like the Republicans saying, hey, this deal happened, something's fishy here, we have to investigate it. There's a specific thing that happened that's causing them to investigate this deal now. And what happened, and here we get into the details, but let me try to briefly say what's going on. So roughly speaking, The Hill published this article, when was this? Last week. And roughly speaking, what this article says is that the FBI determined that first of all, that somebody working for Russia was doing corrupt things in America, basically involving transportation companies to giving contracts to transportation companies to move stuff around, and in exchange for giving the contract to the company would give kickbacks to the Russian person. So this guy actually got arrested. His name is it's in here somewhere. Where is it? Down here somewhere. See, his name is Michael. His last name is Mikurin. So anyways, so the FBI uncovered that this one Russian dude was running this scheme where he would have his Russian company hire like these American transportation companies in this non-competitive bidding process, and the American transportation company would agree to like give the guy a kickback. So that's one part of this. Another part of this is that the FBI uncovered supposedly that that Russia was trying to grow its atomic energy business inside the United States. And this article, by the way, this article it's unspecific in a lot of ways. So if you look at what it says in the lead here, it says the FBI had gathered substantial evidence that Russian nuclear industry officials were engaged in bribery, kickbacks, extortion, and money laundering designed to grow Vladimir Putin's atomic energy business inside the United States. It's not very clear, that part, what exactly they were doing to try to grow the atomic energy business. But basically, the only really concrete thing here in this article is that there was this Russian dude who was running this scheme where, or I guess you could say a sort of scam, where he would hire American transportation companies to do stuff for his Russian company, to do stuff for them in the US. And rather than have competitive bidding, he would just give the contract to somebody, but in exchange for that, the company would give him money. So that in itself could just be like one dude who wanted to make money for himself. Then there's this other thing, part of this report, which says the FBI uncovered that Vladimir Putin's that the Russia was trying to grow their atomic energy business inside the U.S., which is all kind of murky in this article. It's not clear exactly what that means. But anyways, this Hill article came out like a week ago, and it has some corruption in it, and it sort of has to do with the energy industry. So that has made some House Republicans say all right, and so given that the FBI uncovered this, and this was back in like 2009, FBI was looking at this, some House Republicans have said, hey, since the FBI was uncovering this funny business going on with Russia and energy stuff in 2009, was that made public? Did the FBI tell anyone about this in 2009, 2010, when the Uranium One deal was being approved? And the thinking is something like, maybe if this had been publicized, this stuff the FBI knew about Russia or Russian people doing stuff in the United States, maybe if this corruption stuff had been publicized in 2009, 2010 by the FBI, if it wasn't publicized, maybe the Uranium One deal wouldn't have been approved. Now, I can't say whether that's the case or not. It's possible maybe the people who approved the Uranium One deal in the Obama administration knew about this already. Maybe if they had known about this, it wouldn't have mattered to whether the deal was approved. But anyway, without getting too complex, this story broke a week ago, and this story brought Uranium One back into the news. And now, on the heels of this story in the Hill, this House investigation into the Uranium One deal is going to happen. But what the House is focusing on is the FBI, the stuff the FBI was investigating that's outlined in this story, not very clearly a lot of it, but the stuff the FBI was investigating involving Russia and the US energy industry and some corruption, was that stuff publicized by the FBI? Did American government officials know about it? And would, and should they have known? And if they didn't, maybe they should have known about it because there was going to be this, because maybe it would have affected the Uranium One deal being approved or not. So that's the short version of why right now this Uranium One deal is being investigated. Because people have been talking about the Uranium One deal, certain people for years now, and it came up during the campaign, and you might wonder, like, well, why are they investigating it now of all times? This article came out and kind of brought it back into the news, and also brought up these new considerations that the FBI was focusing on some Russian corruption involving our energy industry. So that's why this is happening now, and you can see, I think it's talked about in the CNN article. So look at paragraph 2 right here. Representative Devin Nunes said at a news conference that his committee and the House Oversight Committee are launching the joint investigation into the uranium deal, whether there was an FBI investigation into the matter, and if so, why Congress wasn't informed. So they're saying that Congress never was told about this FBI investigation here. I guess. Let me just look up one more thing here. It all gets very complex, like who knew what and why. Anyways, let me not get lost in those details right now. And by the way, I just want to say thanks. A couple people have made donations. Jeff Henderson donated $20 and said, let's make RSBN greater. And Elizabeth Luker donated $20 and said, good evening, all my RSBN family. Steve, as always, great job. We all just have to keep woke, vigilant, and ready because we have some rough waters ahead. Love you all. Thank you guys for the donations. Your donations are what keeps us on the air and what lets us do a broadcast like this where we can talk about this news story, where we can talk about it in an agenda-free way, where we don't have lots of partisan people yelling at you, telling you what to think, and also where we're going to take your comments on the story. We like doing this kind of coverage here, but if you like that, please consider donating because we are viewer-supported. You guys, your donations are what keeps us on the air. So if you want to donate, you can do what Elizabeth and Jeff did and go to the YouTube chat room next to the broadcast on YouTube and just click on the dollar sign. There's a little dollar sign at the bottom of the YouTube chat. Or you can go to rsbn.tv/donate, rsbn.tv/donate. Okay, so what we've done so far, and again, there's going to be some detail here, but a big part of what we want to do here is just clarify what's going on with the story. And it's like unfortunately, there's no easy, simple 2-minute way to explain it. So I'm going to try to do it as simply as I can, but I apologize. We're going to have to talk about a little detail here before I get to your comments. But I want to hear what you have to say. So write to me on Twitter, @Lookner on Twitter, and I'll read your comments in a little bit. So all we've talked about so far is the House today announced they're investigating this Obama-era uranium deal about Uranium One. And we said, why are they doing that now? I mean, hasn't this been talked about for a couple of years? And didn't this deal happen in 2010? And what we said was, well, this story came out a week ago in The Hill, where The Hill revealed that the FBI was, and I'll just make me disappear for a second so you can see the headline. The Hill revealed that, what's that? Oh, it's an autoplay video. Stop autoplay video. The FBI had substantial evidence that. So the FBI had been investigating back in 2009, some Russian corruption involving the American energy industry, and they arrested a guy. Where does it say? Did it say when they arrested the guy? I can't. It's so much details here. They arrested this guy, McCarran, who is a Russian guy who is basically hiring American transportation companies and getting them to give him kickbacks to transport like energy materials. I think it might have been uranium, but a lot is not clear here in the article. Anyways, but this article came out about this FBI investigation involving corruption in the energy, Russia corruption in the energy industry, and that came out this week, and that's why the House today announced this investigation. They want to know why Congress, I guess, wasn't told about this. And let me also just see. Well, we'll talk about more. I just want to look up one more thing about this and this CNN article isn't even clear about why exactly this investigation was announced today and why it's happening right now and what exactly they're investigating. So, but again, they're not just investigating the deal. They're investigating it in light of this revelation that the FBI was investigating some other Russian corruption in the energy industry. Let me just look up one thing real quick here. Hold on. Let me give me 1 second to look this up before we move on. This article, House Republicans launch new probes into Obama-era Uranium One deal. And where's the FBI stuff? So again, they say the Hill reported that FBI had evidence as early as 2009 that Russian operatives used bribes, kickbacks, and other dirty tactics to expand Moscow's atomic energy footprint in the U.S. And Devin Nunes is saying, if so, why was Congress not informed of this matter? So anyways, all right. So we've talked about, we've given a very brief introduction to why this deal is being investigated now and what specifically they're investigating about it. Although I'm guessing that when they started doing this investigation, they'll also they'll also just investigate the deal itself, and I'm sure some Republicans will ask some questions about the deal itself. So now that we've talked about what the investigation is at least starting to focus on and why it's happening now, I want to say a little bit about what this whole Uranium One deal was. And again, this gets, and some of the facts we know about it, and it gets kind of confusing, but I think it's worth just taking a second and trying to somewhat simply explain this Uranium One deal and the facts behind the case. Okay, so Uranium One was this company that owned interests in a bunch of uranium mines internationally in different countries. And in 2009, Uranium One, so Uranium One was originally, there's a connection to this guy, Frank Justra. It gets so complex, but I want to try to make this, let me just keep it simple now. Let me keep it simple. So Uranium One was this company that as of 2009, they owned a bunch of different uranium production facilities in different countries. And included in what they owned in 2009, included in that was uranium production facilities in America, uranium mines in America, that amounted to 20% of uranium production capacity in America. So Uranium One, it's 2009, there's this company, Uranium One. They own 20% of production capacity of uranium in the United States. They also own very valuable uranium mines in Kazakhstan, okay? So let me just double check one thing real quick. Yes, so it's 2009. Uranium One is this company that has lots of uranium interests, including 20% of the United States uranium production capacity and also valuable mines in Kazakhstan, okay? And what happened is Russia basically made an offer to buy Uranium One. Now, Russia did this through through a company that was run by the Russian government. But this company run by the Russian government, this energy company, made an offer to buy Uranium One. So there had to be a review of this in America by the American government because Uranium One, among other things it owned, as we said, this 20% production. It owned 20% of the uranium raw production capacity in the United States. So this government commission, which approves these things, it was their job to decide whether to approve, the federal government, whether to approve this sale to Russia. And I'm going to try to give you, if I can find you, the name of this commission. I'll get it eventually. But let me just keep on the summary here. So basically what happened is the commission ended up approving the sale. So Russia, through this Russian company, bought Uranium One in 2009. And by doing so, they got, as part of the deal, ownership of 20% of the uranium production capacity in the United States. Now, some people have said, well, this actually isn't as big a deal as it sounds because legally, legally, this uranium that the Russians now owned couldn't leave the country. They weren't able to take it out of the country. And if you look up some of these political fact-checking sites, they say this. So for example, this is Snopes. They say, this is their fact check. Hillary Clinton gave 20% of the United States uranium to Russia in exchange for Clinton Foundation donations. So this is Snopes, which is supposedly a big fact-checking site. Facebook says they want to use Snopes for fact-checking. And one of the things they say, despite transfer of ownership to Russia, the uranium remained in the U.S. And they say, a key fact ignored in criticisms of Clinton's supposed involvement in the deal is that the uranium was not, nor could it be, exported and remained under the control of U.S.-based subsidiaries of Uranium One, according to a statement by the Nuclear Regulatory Commission. And I neglected to say, by the way, so I mentioned there was this company, Uranium One. They owned 20% of U.S. uranium production. Russia offered to buy the company. The federal government had to approve it. This commission of the federal government that had to approve this sale. One of the people on the commission was Hillary Clinton. The Secretary of State is one of the members of that commission. And I also believe the way that technically, well, I don't want to get into that. They have to approve this. There's details here we're not getting into, but here it is. You can actually see it says the CFIUS is the commission. There are 9 cabinet members and department heads that sit on the CFIUS, and the Secretary of the State is one of them. And the commission is CFIUS. What is it called? Where is it? Where does it say it in this article? Committee on Foreign Investment in the United States. So that's the committee on which the U.S. Secretary of State sits, which had to approve this Uranium One deal. So anyways, I was saying that some people say, well, fine, we approved this sale. This commission, including Hillary Clinton, approved this sale of Uranium One to Russia. But it's not that big of a deal because they can't take the uranium out of the country. And that's what Snopes says. They say, look, I mean, I'm just reading you this Snopes fact-checking article, and it says, a key fact ignored in the criticisms of Clinton's supposed involvement of the deal is that the uranium was not, nor could it be exported. So now if that was really true, I guess that might make this a less serious thing. I could see how that might make it less serious. And PolitiFact said the same thing. PolitiFact said, where is theirs? Can I find it here? I tweeted it out, so I'll call up my Twitter here and show it to you on my Twitter. So PolitiFact, that article in PolitiFact, they say this. On the one hand, Russia doesn't have a license to export uranium outside the United States. So, as oilprice.com noted, it's somewhat disingenuous to say this uranium is now Russia's to do with it what it pleases. So, a number of people, including these fact-checking sites, have said, well, this story's a bit overblown because Russia can't take the uranium out of the country. They don't have a license to. But the thing that's ignored is one of the most famous articles on this whole story is this 2015 article from the New York Times, not a conservative publication, the New York Times. And this is from 2015, and it's worth a read. And it really goes over a lot about the story, but it says, cash flowed to Clinton Foundation amid Russian uranium deal. But one thing that this story reports, in 2015, at the end of the story, they say, the New York Times, that this uranium has been brought out of the country by Russia, that Russia has taken uranium out of the country. This uranium that they bought from Uranium One. And you can see here, down here it says, this is from the New York Times. Mr. Christensen noticed that despite assurances, look, I'm going to outline this. Despite assurances by the Nuclear Regulatory Commission that uranium could not leave the country without Uranium One or ARMZ obtaining an export license, which they do not have, Yellowcake, which contains uranium, it's a uranium concentrate powder, from Yellowcake from his property was routinely packed into drums, and trucked off to a processing plant in Canada. So this guy says it was taken out of the country. And then look, the Nuclear Regulatory Commission confirms that it left the country. Asked about that, the commission confirmed that Uranium One has, in fact, shipped Yellowcake to Canada, even though it does not have an export license. Instead, the transport company doing the shipping, RSB Logistics Services, has the license. A commission... Now, listen to this. They say, a commission spokesman says, to the best of our knowledge, they're not even sure, to the best of our knowledge, most of the uranium sent to Canada for processing was returned for use in the United States. So they're admitting here, the Nuclear Regulatory Commission, that some of this Uranium One uranium from the U.S. that was bought by Russia has been taken out of the country. Some of it was not brought back in the country. And they say 25% of the stuff that's gone out of the country, and a Uranium One spokesman says 25% of the uranium taken out of the country has gone to Western Europe and Japan. And then they say at the moment, with the uranium market in the downturn, nothing is being shipped from the Wyoming mines. So this story from the New York Times has the Nuclear Regulatory Commission confirming that some of this uranium bought by Uranium One, the American uranium, has been taken out of the country, and some of it hasn't been brought back. And Uranium One says some of it got shipped to Western Europe and Japan, and who knows what they're doing with it. So this whole point that I think, when I first read the point on these fact-checking sites, I was like, oh, well, if the uranium can't leave the country, that makes this a little less serious, or maybe significantly less serious. That's just not true. The Nuclear Regulatory Commission back in 2015 in this story says that Russia has taken Uranium One uranium out of the country and brought it to other countries. So that it's a little bit frustrating, because you look at these fact-checking sites like PolitiFact and Snopes, and they're just telling you falsities. And in this Snopes article, look, despite transfer of ownership, the uranium remained in the U.S. Well, that's just not true. I just showed you a story from the New York Times in which the Nuclear Regulatory Commission confirmed that the uranium didn't remain in the U.S. And this article, you might think, well, this is an old article. This article was updated. It was updated in it was published, it was updated a week ago. Look. 2017, October 17th at the bottom there, 2017. It was updated a week ago. But they still haven't taken out the false claim that the uranium remained in the U.S. And as I said, PolitiFact says the same thing in their article. So it's just very hard to find out really what's going on with this story. I just had to find that out myself. But anyways, so all right, and before I get to your comments, we're going to get to them in a second. There's a couple other basic facts I want to point out here. So this Uranium One company was sold to Russia. The sale got in 2009. The sale got approved by this federal government commission that included Hillary Clinton and 8 other people apparently, but definitely other people on it. And the other big aspect about the story in terms of being investigated, in terms of what people who think this should be investigated further say is a big aspect of the story, is that people affiliated with Uranium One made significant donations to the Clinton Foundation. And around the time this deal was being approved, a Russian company, I want to get you the exact name of the company, but it's a company controlled by the Russian government. Where is it? I want to get you the exact name of it here. So many details here. Renaissance Capital. It's a Russian investment bank with ties to the Kremlin. So Renaissance Capital, which is a Russian investment bank with ties to the Kremlin, around the time this Uranium One deal was getting approved, paid Bill Clinton $500,000 to give a speech in Russia, which was, I think, like twice his normal speaking fee. But and also the head of, and I'm just getting this from the New York Times article. I'm not making this up. So amid this, sorry, let me just show you a couple things here. Amid this influx of Uranium One connected money, Mr. Clinton was invited to speak in Moscow in June 2010. The same month, Rosatom struck its deal for a majority stake in Uranium One for $500,000. And also, they talk about how there was money donated by people connected with Uranium One to the Clinton Foundation. And it says the chairman, Mr. Telfer, the chairman of Uranium One, talks about him here. And it says that, where does it give the total of how his donations was? Mr. Telfer's undisclosed donations. So around the time of this Uranium One deal, the chairman of Uranium One, the company that was going to be sold to Russia for a lot of money, made undisclosed donations of between 1.3 million and 5.6 million to the Clinton Foundation, which the Clinton Foundation did not disclose until later. They were supposed to close, they didn't disclose it at the time. So anyways, The short version of this is that there's no. Why is my camera all blurry? Come back, camera. Thank you. It did like an autofocus thing. Anyways, so summing up here the basic details is we have back in. Was the sale 2010, the offer 2009? It's so confusing. I think this the offer. I said 2009, maybe it was 2010 was the deal. Anyways, Uranium One got sold in 2010 to Russia. Uranium One controlled 20% of American uranium production capacity. The deal had to be approved by a commission which included Secretary of State Hillary Clinton. Around the time when this was all happening, Bill Clinton and the Clinton Foundation was getting lots of donations from people, millions of dollars in donations from people affiliated with Uranium One, including the chairman of Uranium One. And Bill Clinton was getting hired by a company, an investment bank in Russia affiliated with the Kremlin for a $500,000 speaking engagement. So all of that stuff is we know, and it's circumstantial. There is no evidence yet in terms of like emails or anything other than circumstantial evidence. There's no evidence yet that shows that Hillary Clinton or anyone else in the U.S. government was trading approval of this deal for something. So some people out there think there was a quid pro quo, but I have not seen any evidence, like direct evidence of that. Like, for example, an email from somebody who worked for Hillary Clinton that said like, hey, if you send us this money, we will approve this Uranium One deal. So Hillary Clinton also claims that she wasn't even aware, she wasn't involved in the approval process, and that somebody who worked under her was the one dealing with the approval process. So there's all these details we could get into about this, but I didn't want to get lost in those details. I just wanted to give you the basic story that that this company was bought, that Hillary Clinton was one of the people involved in approving the deal, and at the time, this money was coming into the Clinton Foundation from people affiliated with the company, and there was money going to Bill Clinton from the Russian government through this speaking fee paid by a Russian investment bank. But at the same time, there's been no evidence released that would directly show any kind of quid pro quo from anyone who's approved this deal, by anyone who's approved this deal to trade their approval for it for funds from Russia. Also, one other thing, this New York Times article is very good and it's really worth a read. It's long, but it's really worth reading through. One thing they point out in this New York Times article is they say the Obama administration wanted this deal to happen because at the time they were trying to reset 2010, President Obama was trying to reset relations with Russia and have better relations with them. And at the time, they had just Russia, around 2010, they had approved the Iran deal. So let me see if I can just find you something about that. Russia signed off on, not the Iran deal. Russia in 2010 had signed off on a new United Nations resolution imposing tough new sanctions on that country. So it wasn't the Iran deal, but it was they were cooperating on Iran. And so what this New York Times story says is that the people who wrote the story think that the Obama administration had a strong motivation to approve of this sale because they were trying to have good relations with Iran, and they were working with Russia and working with Russia on other stuff. So anyways, there's so much detail here, and there's so much we could get into, but I just wanted to give a basic summary of what's going on. But again, the House will be looking into this deal, and they'll be probably, in addition to asking about the FBI stuff we talked about earlier, I'm assuming some people in the House will ask about these contributions. Who knows? It's entirely possible nothing will come of it because you might think, well, if no evidence has been produced, direct evidence of a quid pro quo, will there be any in the future? Who knows? Hillary Clinton denies there was any kind of quid pro quo, but we'll see what happens. But I do want to emphasize again, don't trust any one source on this, because as I said before, there's that key point which as I showed you, both Snopes and PolitiFact, these fact-checking sites say Under this deal, no uranium was allowed to leave the U.S. and no uranium, none of the, even though Russia bought this uranium, it can't be taken out of the U.S. When in this article in the New York Times, it's the Nuclear Regulatory Commission confirms. This is in 2015. This article in the New York Times, the Nuclear Regulatory Commission confirms Russia has brought uranium out of the U.S. from Uranium One, and some of it hasn't come back, and they don't even know where it is. They think it might be, some of it might be in Western Europe or Japan. Who knows where it goes from there? So maybe they're bringing it back to Russia. There's this whole other thing here, which I won't get into right at the moment because I want to hear your comments on this, where, by the way, oh, I want to mention one thing. Hold on. One thing I should mention is if you read the story in the New York Times, there's this very interesting aspect of this whole Russia buying Uranium One, which is, it seems possible that Russia was not chiefly buying Uranium One to get control of the American uranium, but because Uranium One owned these really valuable Kazakhstan uranium mines, and Russia wanted to get those. And the reason, well, some people think that Bill Clinton helped get Uranium One, these Kazakhstan mines in the first place, because Bill Clinton flew on a plane with this guy, Frank Giusti. If I'm getting the name right, is it Giusti? Let me just make sure. Giustra, Frank Giustra, I'm sorry. So Bill Clinton flew with Frank Giustra to Kazakhstan in 2005, and that's where Frank Giustra sealed the deal for this Kazakhstan uranium. And then Russia, there was this, and then eventually, but Russia wanted that uranium from Kazakhstan, so Russia offered all this money to Uranium One to buy out Uranium One. So it's certainly, if you read this article, it seems possible that Russia was not buying Uranium One chiefly to get the American uranium, but more that Russia was buying Uranium One to get this Kazakhstan uranium. And that makes it even more complex because Bill Clinton was working with this guy, Frank Giustra, who's this big Canadian, businessman, and Bill Clinton might have helped Frank Giustra get this deal done with Kazakhstan, and then Frank Giustra a couple years later gave like $31 million to the Clinton Foundation. So there's all this money and stuff, and I didn't even get into that in the stream. But again, you'd get tired of all this detail. So anyways, I've been trying to make this as concise as possible without kind of skipping big detail. That's kind of a not so brief summary of some of the issues concerned here. But I want to hear what you think about all this. So what do you think about this House investigation? Do you think it's going to uncover anything new? Do you think this really isn't going anywhere? What do you think about this whole Uranium One deal being approved? And then there's all these issues like I didn't even get into, which is like Hillary Clinton says, well, I wasn't really involved in approving the deal. There was somebody at the State Department under me who was my representative who they really this guy dealt with approving the deal. I didn't really know much about it, and I wasn't day-to-day hands-on approving it. And some people say, I've seen some accounts that say, yeah, in a deal like this, the Secretary of State wouldn't be personally involved, but I've seen some accounts that say that, and I saw another account that says no, in a deal like this, Hillary Clinton would be involved. So the Secretary of State would be involved. So even like the detail of like how much she was involved with the approval process is that in itself isn't clear. There's so much unclarity about this whole story and all the details. Anyways. Let me know what you think about all this. What do you think really happened? What do you think will happen with this investigation? Write to me at Lookner on Twitter, at Lookner. I want to read your comments. And I first want to say that thank you to the moderators for joining us tonight, moderating the chat rooms. We have Real Frank in the YouTube chat room, and Cindy Hoffman is there, and I think we have Common Sense and Gleno on the website chat. Also, we are viewer supported, so if you like our coverage, if you like that we're taking a few minutes to go into some of the details and not doing a 2-minute shouting thing on this and trying to get into some of the details of these issues, please consider donating, because your donations are what keeps us on the air. We are a viewer-supported network. So if you'd like to donate, you can go to the bottom of the YouTube chat and click on the $ at the bottom of the YouTube chat. Even small donations are welcome. They keep us on the air. You can also go to rsbn.tv/donate, rsbn.tv/donate. And be sure to subscribe to us on YouTube and click the notifications bell when you do, so you get notified about all of our upcoming news videos. Okay, I want to get to some of your comments. Hope that was somewhat clear. I did my best. There's so much going on with this story. Let's see. Trump Jr. says Clinton cash was all true, all of it. So what you're referring to, Trump Jr., is this book called Clinton Cash, which talks a bunch about this Uranium One stuff. And I'll show you, for those of you who don't know, what Clinton Cash is. And that New York Times story that I showed you, that very good New York Times story, actually says one of its sources is Clinton Cash. But let me show you the Clinton Cash book. This is the book by Peter Schweitzer, which talks a bunch about Uranium One and the Clinton Foundation and other things. So you can check that out if you'd like. Sleight of Hand just made a donation and said, thank you, Steve, for trying to separate fact from fiction in regards to this complex story. Thank you, Sleight of Hand. Appreciate the donation. Power Down Media says, this is a good example. Wait, let's see here. Power Down Media says, this is a good example of the left employing tactics from the radical playbook, overwhelming with so much chaos, so many big things happening at once that the details get overlooked, especially when the media is using these tactics. Copernica sent me an article about this story from last year. Thank you, Copernica. I'll have to check that out. A couple articles. Sent me some links and a couple articles. Copernica, thank you. I'll have to check those out. Reagan Better says, you're making a lot of accusations. Is this why Trump can't pass tax reform, Lookner? What accusations did I make in this broadcast? I'm just telling you, I just read news stories to you. Now, I accuse Snopes in PolitiFact of posting something false, because they did. But I feel like that's not really an accusation. That's a confirmable claim. You're saying, is this why Trump can't pass tax reform? I'm not really clear. Feel free to clarify. Why Trump can't pass tax reform? Reagan Better, please clarify. Reagan Better says, why doesn't Trump do his job rather than worry about Clinton? The campaign is over. So just to clarify, Reagan Better, this investigation is a House investigation. This is not a Justice Department investigation. This is a congressional investigation. The House is doing this. Now, maybe you think secretly President Trump was in cahoots with the House in getting this investigation started. But as far as I'm aware now, this is an investigation that the House decided to have on their own. So at least on the face of it, this is not President Trump investigating this. This is the House investigating this. Retired said, do guns ever leave the country? Maybe this question is directed at the uranium leaving the country. I'm not sure. Not quite sure what the question is getting at, Retired. Feel free to clarify. Sean Vondar writes, hey, Steve, it's all deflection so that the left hand doesn't know what the right hand is up to. Also, Snopes has been debunked. Oh, so you're talking about the Snopes claim about the false claim about uranium not leaving the country. Chest Harrington says, Steve, please stop using Snopes. Seriously, dude, not cool. Tox says, nothing will happen to Hillary and the media will portray her as perfect as usual and hate on Trump. Let's see here. So, all right, I think I've gotten to your messages so far. Oh, let me see. Okay, so if you want to write in with comments on this story, write to me on Twitter at Lookner, at Lookner. And real quick, while we have a second, so many details. I'm not going to get too much more into details because it'll be like detail craziness. But anyways, maybe we'll talk about more about some of the details when when this actually starts getting investigated. But again, just so much confusion around this story, about how, again, for example, how much of a role did Hillary Clinton have in approving it? How much of a role should she have had in approving it? Did these donations, did they have anything to deal with the deal being approved or not? And why were they made if they were unrelated? So where's the 31 million one? So here's this thing from the New York Times article where it says, in 2008, in the midst of Mrs. Clinton's failed presidential campaign, the Times published an article revealing the 2005's trip with President Clinton, or with Bill Clinton, not President then, to Mr. Justra's Kazakhstan mining deal. It also reported that several months later, Mr. Justra had donated $31.3 million to Mr. Clinton's foundation. So Bill Clinton went with Frank Justra in 2005 to Kazakhstan. According to this article in the New York Times, Bill Clinton did something good for the Kazakhstan president. Mr. Clinton handed the Kazakh president a propaganda coup when he expressed support for Mr. Nazarbayev's bid to head an international elections monitoring group, undercutting U.S. American foreign policy and criticism of Kazakhstan's poor human rights record by among others his wife, then a senator. So Bill Clinton goes with Frank Justra in 2005, says these nice things about the president of Kazakhstan. The president of Kazakhstan apparently, although it's not exactly clear, approves this deal selling Kazakhstan uranium mines to the person who Bill Clinton took the trip with. And then 3 months after that Kazakhstan uranium is sold to this guy Bill Clinton took the trip with, the guy Bill Clinton took the trip with gave $31.3 million to Bill Clinton's foundation. Now, all of this could be on the up and up, but they're just questions about why these things happened in the order they did and stuff. So I don't know, Again, so much details. Read this New York Times article. It's very good. It talks about different facts. It's a good primer on different facts about the story. I would highly recommend you read this. But it's detailed. You gotta have to go through it slowly and keep all the characters in place and everything. All right, I think I caught up to all of your messages here. If you want to write in while we're on the air, you can write to me on Twitter at Lookner. We'll be on the air a few minutes longer. Also, we got a request from some people to mention this story that came out about, hold on, I'll show you. That the DNC and Hillary, the Clinton campaign, funded the dossier. Hang on one second. And we're not going to really get into that now because that would take us an all. DNC Hillary Clinton campaign helped pay for Fusion GPS for anti-Trump dossier. So we're not going to get into that right now because when we try to get into more than one thing in a stream, my head explodes and it gets all confusing. So maybe we'll talk about that on a future broadcast. But for now, we're sticking with this. Carl Peterson just made a donation. Thank you, Carl. Carl says, October surprise. Hey, the criminal corrupt cabal is being dismantled. Peace is my aim. Thank you, RSBN. Special shout out to Steve Lookner. Thank you so much, Carl, for your donation. That's really nice of you. If you want to be like Carl and help Right Side Broadcasting stay on the air, go to the bottom of the YouTube chat room. Click on the dollar sign at the bottom of the chat. Little dollar sign there. Or you can go to rsbn.tv/donate. rsbn.tv/donate. You can also get free stuff in exchange for making a monthly donation. Free stuff like one of these Right Side mugs. To find out how to do that, go to rsbn.tv/donate. And don't forget, subscribe to us on YouTube and click the notifications bell so you know when we're coming on the air with these news broadcasts and breaking news coverage. Follow us on Facebook, Right Side Broadcasting. On Twitter, at RSB Network. I am on Twitter at Lookner. I post about breaking news stuff all the time, so you can follow me there. And I think I'm caught up. Oh, we have a couple more messages, so let me get to those. Patriot of Truth says, hope to see a report from the Justice Court, the Justice Department, do you mean, Patriot of Truth, on this subject? P-Cell says, hey, Steve, if the uranium didn't leave the country, why was a deal made with the Russians for it? Your summary was great, by the way. Thank you, P-Cell. Now, somebody might say, P-Cell, that even if Russia didn't want to bring it out of the country, they could have still bought Uranium One because they wanted the Kazakhstan uranium. Or somebody might say, well, Russia bought the American uranium because they would get the rights to sell that uranium to American power plants. And so Russia might have just seen it as a profitable business deal. So there's this really interesting aspect of the story, though, which is if you read the New York Times story, it almost seems like one way to interpret what happened is Uranium One is sitting there. There's this growing company. Uranium One makes this deal where they take over all this Kazakhstan uranium mines. And then a couple years later, Russia's like, no, we want these mines from Kazakhstan. And from the New York Times story, it seems like what might have happened is basically Russia said to Uranium One, if you don't give up if you don't sell your company to us, we're gonna make it so that Kazakhstan nullifies the deal with you and takes the uranium away from you. Because I guess around 2007, Uranium One stock had dropped because Kazakhstan had started to question whether this was a legal deal that sold the uranium in Kazakhstan to Uranium One. So it seems like something that might have happened is that Russia decided it wanted this Kazakhstan uranium and basically said, hey, Uranium One, look, we'll pay you a ton of money, just sell us this, because if you don't sell it to us, we're going to take this Kazakhstan uranium anyway, it's going to hurt your company. And if that happened, Uranium One might have thought, well, we got to sell the company to Russia because we don't really have a choice, but we got to make sure this gets approved by the American government. So that would be the one big thing standing in the way. Anyways, it's so much detail to get into. But you can read about it in the New York Times story. It's a good summary of all this stuff. But that whole Kazakhstan angle is really interesting to the story, and I didn't realize all of it. All right. Your head's probably exploding now. I found this fish says, what if Russia secretly sells our uranium to North Korea? Then North Korea creates weapon with our uranium aimed at us. Look, who knows where it goes? I think obviously it's not ideal if, as you say, I found this fish, if this uranium is leaving the country, we don't know what's happening to it. But as I said from that New York Times article, the Nuclear Regulatory Commission confirmed that some of this uranium was leaving the country, it was not coming back, and they didn't seem to know exactly where it was. Which sounds not good. Retired says, his comment about do guns ever leave the U.S. He had written in that before, and to clarify, he or she says probabilistic analysis would likely reveal that the U.S. government has caused and will cause more deaths by exporting guns than uranium. Ryan at Ryan NFFC 96 writes, I bet Democrats are starting to regret the Trump-Russia collusion nonsense because it's now coming back to bite them. Okay, I think at this point we are going to wrap up this stream. So if nothing else, I feel like at least we got a little more detail on the table about what this story involved, why this investigation is happening now, and what some of the big issues are involved in this sale, and what is known or really not known about it. We at least made a little progress clarifying some of those questions, I hope. But we will keep an eye on breaking news as we always do, and if there's breaking news tonight or anytime in the future, we'll come on the air and cover it. And okay, I think we're going to wrap it up right now. Again, follow us for updates on Twitter at RSB Network. Follow me for breaking news on Twitter at Lookner, at Lookner. Subscribe to us on YouTube and click the notifications bell so you get updates about when we're coming on the air. And thanks so much to everybody who donated. Those donations keep us on the air. If you like our coverage, want to keep us on the air, keep bringing you an alternative to the mainstream media, an agenda-free presentation of the news. You can go to the bottom of the YouTube chat on any of our broadcasts and click the $ at the bottom of the YouTube chat, or go to rsbn.tv/donate, rsbn.tv/donate. Thanks to everybody for watching. Facebook, YouTube, I think maybe Twitch. Thank you to the moderators for doing such a great job on YouTube and on the website. And people are saying thanks. Thank you for everybody for writing in. I really appreciate you all writing in and sharing your views. I see people saying thanks in the chat room on YouTube. Thanks the Real Narcid. Thanks Jabbery. Thank you Jason Thornton. Thank you Sharon. Thank you Defectio. Who else we got in there? Big Tom wants me to get rid of the picture of Hillary in the corner. It's up. We're almost done, so it's staying up there. Thank you, Remain Faithful. Thanks, Real Frank. Thanks, Martin Marbles. Thank you, Joshua. Oh, Lynn Jean is there. Thank you, Lynn Jean. Ron Miller, Kirk Larson, Glenda Green. You're welcome. Thank you. Sleight of hand, thanks. Big Tom, thank you. Penny, thank you. Okay, we're wrapping it up right now. Thank you, everybody else there. Tuggers Mundo said thanks. Okay, now we're wrapping it up. We'll see you real soon. I'm guessing there'll be, there very well might be a briefing, White House press briefing tomorrow. If there is, we'll cover it. But we'll definitely be on the air whenever breaking news happens. There's been a bit of a lull lately in the breaking news. It makes me think like we're in for like a big news cycle, because whenever there's a lull, we get some big news after. I mean, that's not really a very insightful statement, but it just feels to me like there's going to be big news soon. Hopefully it's like positive news and not negative news, but we'll be keeping an eye on it. So that's it. All right, we're wrapping it up. Hope you enjoyed the stream. Thank you for watching, and we will see you really soon. So for all of us here at Right Side Broadcasting, have a great evening, and until next time.